to our channel. In this video we're going to show you how to sort out some issues we've had with decals, carbon decals on our model. As you can see, some of the carbon fiber decals of the air vents has gone through into the white circle that we have in the body. So to repair that, we're going to use some plain paper. We have actually cut a circle which is slightly bigger than the size of the actual circle in the car. This paper, we're going to use it together with the masks that we had cut it in the first place, which I can tell you is very recommendable to always cut two sets of masks, because you could have some problems, and having two sets cut it at the same time, you ensure that you have enough decals to sort out the problem. So when we actually designed the carbon fiber decals, we also put this design into masking tape, and we actually cut it at the same time. So we're going to use the maskings of the center circle, and we're going to cut them in the same place we have actually cut the paper, because we want to stick these masks on top of the paper and only leave a surface to stick it to the car of about 1.5–2 millimeters. We want to have the smallest area of sticky masks onto our model, because we don't want to damage the carbon fiber decals we have on it already. So we cut them, as you can see, the same way, and we're going to use the outer side of the mask on top of our white paper. So this mask will actually define the outer line of the white circle. So we have to put it in our paper, and the whole idea, as I said, is to actually not have a lot of masking on top of the carbon fiber decal. Because if you actually put the whole masking on top of the carbon fiber decal without the clear coat, most probably is when you actually pull off the masking, you probably get the decal coming with it at the same time. So we can't do that. We have to make it this way to make a good job. So that's what we actually stick in there, as you can see. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the inner side of the masking with a white paper circle to cover the inside of the circle where we have the numbers. So we do exactly the same thing. We actually remove the mask from the position, and we stick it to our white circle paper, and just leaving 1 or 2 millimeters so that we have a little bit of surface to stick it to our model. Very carefully we just prepare this mask like that, and this will help us to sort out the problem. We start by putting the inside. We make sure that we actually covering the numbers with our masking, because we don't want any white paint going on top of the carbon fiber decals. We just stick it gently, and then we will do exactly the same with the other part. We have to be very precise with these masks. The edge of the mask must be exactly in the same place as the edge of the carbon fiber decal, otherwise the white paint will go over the carbon fiber decal and will spoil our job. So take your time and be very precise to put this masking in the right place to have a good result. Make sure that the edges of the masks are firmly glued into the model, and there is no lifts spaces where the paint can actually flow underneath. That's very important because otherwise we won't have a clean edge. Now we use a little bit of masking tape to secure these two masks in the right place, but we make sure that this masking tape is not actually touching any carbon fiber decal. So we put it over the white paper and secure one with the other so it doesn't move. And to cover the rest of the car we're going to do the same. We just use a little bit of masking tape with the extra white paper, and we make sure that we don't actually stick any masking tape on top of the carbon fiber decals. Now we're going to use the same paint as we used before. We cover the airbrush so we don't get any paint falling over the model, and we're going to use an Iwata 0.3 airbrush. We put the pressure down to 1.4, 1.5 bars. We just want to spray it in very thin layers, very carefully. We need to spray a little bit of paint and then dry with the air, making sure that the paint we have sprayed is actually dry before we put a new layer. And if we do it slowly, bit by bit, we will be looking at the result, and then we can see when we have actually covered the area we needed to cover. So this is something you have to do with a lot of patience, very slowly, gradually building up the layers, spraying very little quantity of paint over the model, and as I said, drying every time you spray a little bit of paint. I just want to take the chance as well to explain that this video is been edited in real time. I haven't actually cut it down any footage at all, because I thought it was important for you to see you know, the whole process and the timing between making one thing and the other. So the whole process is recorded from front to end, and you can see it here in this video. I'm sorry if it's a little bit long, but I thought it was interesting to do it like that. Right, so we have finished doing our paint. I think the whole thing is being covered. So we now remove very carefully all the masks. It's no good to leave the mask in the model for a long time because it could stick firmly and then destroy the job we have done. So just remove them very carefully, especially the part that they are actually where we have been painting. So use your tweezers and be very gentle. In a minute we will see the result. I think the job is done nicely, and I think we have solved the problem. Very slowly, very carefully. There we can see our number, and then we just take off the next one. By leaving a very small amount of mask into our model, we make sure as well that it's nice and easy to remove. A little bit more, and that's it. I think it's nicely done. Right, we continue with our Ford GT Heritage 2021. We have actually applied our carbon fiber decals, and before we apply the clear coat, we just checked the model and realized that when we actually check it with the photos, the red accent on the ceiling is not actually ending what it should be. It's gone a little bit offset to the left from the vertical axle of the car, and we need to sort out this problem. If you check with the pictures, the top accent should be aligned with the front accent, and it's not. So this is something that sometimes is frequent, especially if you're doing your own decals and if you're doing your own templates. So we need to sort it out. So what we have done is we have actually put a little bit of masking tape in the ceiling, and we have actually aligned it with the part of the front of the car, and this is going to help us to use the mask that we had in our template, the one that we actually used to position the mask for painting the red accent. We're going to put it in place so we simulate where it should be. Once we've done it, we can actually then remove this masking tape that we have used as an auxiliary line. We need to remove this line because if we leave it and try to paint on it, we will actually make a little step with the new paint on top of the old paint right here. So as we're going to paint only in the little part in red that we don't want it to be there, it's better that we actually take out of the way all the things that shouldn't be there, so that we end up with a nice plain surface, and so our job is not visible. So we remove it, and we get ready to paint. So before we actually start painting, what we're going to do is we're going to sand very carefully right here where the red and the white joins, because even if it's not visible, we have a little step over there. So we're going to get a Trisac 3000 grit polishing sponge, and very gently, very carefully, we're going to sand down or polish down maybe this little step. This is very important because when we apply the white over the red, we don't want to show any imperfection. It needs to be perfect. So we need to, first of all, we need to sand down a little bit and touch it until it's completely smooth. As we have finished already our model, and we have already installed the carbon fiber decals, and we haven't actually sprayed the clear coat yet, it's very important we actually protect this area where we have the decals before we paint. And to do that we can use some masking tape, and we can use a little bit of paper, and we can stick this masking tape on these points where there is no decals, because it's very important we don't put any tape over the decals, because when we actually remove it we can actually pull off the decals as well. So we are going to do that and cover it. Well, we have covered already our model. We have installed some paper with masking tape, as you can see here. This masking tape is actually touching the model the less as possible, and is not actually being glued to any place where we have some decals. So we are covering every single part of the model that had a little bit of decoration. We are only leaving the white areas exposed, and we're going to spray only in the area in the ceiling where we have to repair the problem. We are going to use the same paint that we used before, Gravity Colors Frozen White. These paints are very good because they're actually designed to be used as a retouch paint as well. So when we use it on a problem like this, we will make sure that there is no variation on the color. All you have to do is to make sure you actually shake the paint very well, very thoroughly, because we want to mix all the pigments properly. We don't need actually a very big quantity of the paint on our airbrush, as we're going to only use we're going to paint only a small area. So we put a little bit of paint on our airbrush, and we also make sure that we cover our cap with the lid. We don't want to have any accident when we have our model already finished. The airbrush I'm using is an Iwata 0.3 needle high line. For this kind of jobs, it's actually good if you use a good quality airbrush. We want to have a good pattern of spray, very fine, because we only want to paint a small area, the smallest as possible. So the way we're going to do the reparation is we're going to paint, and we're going to dry with the air, and paint again and dry again, and each time we will actually check if we are actually doing the job properly. We will see how much coverage we're doing. It's interesting to start spraying right over the mask that we have on the ceiling, so that we can see where we're actually putting our paint, and make sure that we cover the right area. It's very recommendable to use a tack cloth to clean our model before we spray. These will actually get off all the dust spots that we have in the model, so we just need to run it through a few times. You can also blow some air over your model, and that will help all the dust to go away. We paint and then we dry. We also need to make sure that the mask is actually well stick to the model, because otherwise the paint will actually flow underneath the mask and won't make a sharp edge. So just use something that doesn't damage the model, and just stick it to the model the best you can. We are going to sort out this side as well. It wasn't completely right, so we take the time to sort it out as well. think we just about sorted out. This is the good thing about these paints, that they're easy to use and they have a good result. The finishing is very nice and smooth, and they're ready to paint over the old paint, and we don't have to spray a lot of layers. We just have to put a couple of thin layers until we see everything is covered. It just needs a little bit of pre-preparation and a little bit of order on how to use the things, but then you can see the result is perfect. It's always the same method. You have to paint a little bit and then dry so that the layer before is dry before you paint again. Well, as you can see, it's been sorted. We have a nice finished. All we're going to make sure now is that we don't actually touch or sand this area for at least a couple of hours. We have to let dry the paint properly. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove the masks and the papers, because it's no good to leave them for a long time, because you know, as soon as you pull out from them, if you leave them for too long, you could probably remove part of the work we have behind. So we're going to do just final touches, and we're going to remove the mask and the papers, and let's see what it looks like. Alright, so I think we just finished with the job. We have completely done the paint. We're going to remove all the masking and let's see what's behind. So this is the result. I think we have done a good job. Now the two accents are aligned with the vertical axle, and this proves that when you make a mistake, you don't have to start from scratch the whole job. You can repair it and carry on. Thanks for watching.